Okay, great. Thanks, Connor. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody, to the regular Board of Education meeting, Monday, May 17th. Just a quick housekeeping item. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chatham Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Borough, Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Tatiana, would you mind taking attendance? Hold the mute button until it turns green. Hello?
Hello? Good? All right, cool. Sorry.
Fantastic.
Okay. Mr. Gilfillan? Here. Mr. Arnott? Ms. Ciccarelli? Ms. Clark? Here. Mr. Del Sandro?
Here.
Ms. Kenny? Mr. Ryan? Mr. Smith? Ms. Weber?
Here.
So 7 present and accounted for.
Excellent, thank you. If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over here by Dr. LaSousa. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Again, thank you all for coming. This is, believe it or not, our last meeting before the school year ends. I know that sounds incredible. I didn't think we'd get here, but here we are. Our next public board meeting is not until right after graduation. And just on behalf of the board, I wanted to say thank you to all of the staff, the administration, the teachers, the maintainers, the substitutes, the paras. The list goes on and on. If there was ever a year that it took a village, it was this year. To the parents and the students, thank you for your trust. I know it was frustrating at many times, but you hung in there with us and put some faith in us, and we got it done. So we really just can't say thank you enough to everybody. And if we all were not rowing in the same direction, this would not have been as a successful a year as it was. So thank you to everybody. So that was my last president comment. And then, Dr. LaSousa, I'm going to send it over to you for your report.
Thank you, Laura. Just 2 items under my portion of the agenda. One will be an update on Untitled School, which I'll wait a few minutes to speak to. But the first item is the annual discipline report, which we usually have reported around and we information at the last meeting of the year, so we did this one in June. And they was required by the Department of Education to present an overview of the various disciplinary infractions in the district and all of that. This has been a year where we have had very little in the way of disciplinary infractions, or very few disciplinary infractions, and very few HIB incidents. But they will speak to those, and then I'll round it out with just a couple last minute details about the other schools that they don't represent. So I'll turn it over to Anthony and Lori.
1392 to 1308. For a significant part of the year, we had about 500 students scheduled to be attending in person each day, with the rest of the student body remaining fully virtual. From September 8th through May 6th, there were a total of 47 discipline-type incidents among our 1,308 students. And these incidents would include, for example, cuts to class, acceptable use violations, and cell phone violations. Students who committed such violations would be assigned one or more detentions if they were in-person learners, and the incident will go on file whether they were in-person or remote learners. In contrast to previous years where a class cut might have meant a student spent the period in the cafeteria rather than going to class, this year's class cuts were mainly committed by students who were on virtual instruction, did not log into class, and did not have parent permission to be absent. Our counseling staff and administration worked extensively with students who had repeated class cut violations. Looking at the data between this year and last, you can see that last year, between September and March when we closed, we had approximately 3 times the number of incidents that we have this year. And as I mentioned earlier, I attribute this to the reduced density of the building and the lack of unstructured time and a shortened school day with no lunch this year. The 47 discipline-type incidents involved 41 students total, with only 1 student committing 5 incidents or more. Out-of-school suspension is the consequence assigned for significant infractions of school rules. Last year, we issued 8 out-of-school suspensions, with 2 students receiving 1 or more. This year, only 1 student was issued out-of-school suspension, and we worked creatively with the technology department to determine how to best approach this, given the virtual nature of the students' instruction. This slide illustrates a breakdown of our discipline-type incidents by gender and grade, with males and students in grade 9 and 11 accounting for the majority of incidents. File-type incidents involve lateness to school or class, not signing in, and failure to follow attendance procedures. There were 78 file-type infractions reported between September 8th and May 6th. As in previous years, we communicated our attendance policy, issued warning letters, assigned detentions, placed students on provisional and loss of credit status, and pursued truancy complaints as needed. Attendance was definitely a challenge due to virtual learning, and we found that open communication between administration, our nurse, and our parents was helpful in clarifying our policies and reinforcing the importance of daily attendance for both in-person and remote learners. Virtual instruction made ensuring academic integrity difficult this year. Issues arose with regard to assessment for virtual versus in-person learners, and our teachers did their best to adjust their procedures and how they gave tests. 18 incidents of academic integrity violations have been officially submitted so far this year. 2 reports of possible HIV were brought to the attention of the school this year, and both underwent formal investigation. These incidents involved postings made to social media, one of which required collaboration with another New Jersey school district. Neither of these reports were found to constitute HIV, but both were addressed as code of conduct violations. Both of the reports of harassment, intimidation, and bullying that were investigated by the high school were generated by students. Finally, despite the challenges and uncertainty of this year's law, we continued many of our programs to support student engagement and positive school culture and climate. Programs included Links, our Student Ambassador Program, Learn Unified, Play Unified, and our Week of Respect activities. In addition, we ran events such as virtual trivia and held multiple spirit weeks. A student wellness survey has been administered this spring, and we look forward to seeing the data that it provides. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share the information with you this evening, and at this time, I'll pass the mic to Anthony.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. LaSousa, and members of the community. I am Anthony Giaconia, Assistant Principal at Chatham Middle School, and tonight I'd like to take you through the trends in discipline at CMS for the 2020-2021 school year. To begin with, you will note as we make our way through the data tonight that there were very few infractions of school rules this year, due in part to the nature of our schedule. Specifically, up until May 5th, only about half of the student population was in the building on any given day, and during that time, the students were socially distanced from one another. In addition, you'll also observe that despite the increased amount of time that all students spent online while working virtually, there were very few cyber-related incidents. Furthermore, we also continue to implement our character education / anti-bullying initiative at the middle school. On this slide, you will notice that 980 students were enrolled at CMS this year. Again, though, up until May 5th, only 500 students were in the building on A and C days, and 557 students were in the building on B and D days. With this in mind, there were a total of 8 discipline-type incidents committed, which amounts to 0.008 incidents per student. Of these incidents, 4 dealt with unapproved use of Google Chat or Google Meet violations. This is in comparison to the 2019-2020 school year, in which we had only 18 more students in the building, but 75 incidents were committed. This resulted in 0.075 incidents per student, or a little more than 9 times our current total. Of course, we must remember that the bulk of these infractions were committed before the quarantine began in March 2020. Of the students who violated the school rules, 6 of them, or 0.006% of the population, did so once and did not reoffend. However, 1 student, or 0.001% of the student body, committed 2 incidents. In terms of consequences for these infractions, detentions were issued and conferences were held between students and administrators, counselors, and/or case managers. In addition, no students were suspended this year, compared to 7 last year. When we look at the breakdown of the 7 students who violated the school rules this year, you will notice that all of them were male. In addition, both the 6th and 7th grades accounted for 42.9% of all incidents this year, while the 8th grade accounted for 14.3%. As opposed to discipline-type incidents, file-type infractions include information on confirmed HIB targets and students who are excessively absent or late to school. This year, as you will see on the next slide, there were 0 HIB targets as we had no confirmed HIB violations. As for attendance, we granted a great deal of flexibility to the students given the challenges that this year represented. The one issue that we did encounter dealt with a small number of virtual students who failed to log on to their classes on a consistent basis. When this occurred, parents would be notified via phone and email, and conferences would be held with them as well. In addition, our counselors did an excellent job of following up with the students, and if need be, the police department was asked to perform a welfare check on the household. This would only be requested if parents were fully aware of the matter and their children were still not logging on to their classes. In terms of HIB, 2 investigations were conducted, with 0 of them being confirmed. One of the 2 incidents ended up resulting in a code of conduct violation. This is in comparison to last year, in which 20 HIB investigations were conducted, with 6 of them being confirmed. When we look at a breakdown of the HIB reports for 2020-2021, students filed both reports, and as already stated, neither of them were confirmed. There is a collaborative school-wide effort at CMS to improve school climate, further character education, and address and reduce instances of HIB. This initiative includes the following: HIB education pieces for students, staff, and parents at the beginning of each school year. Curricular tie-ins to the themes of tolerance, respect, and diversity in the subject areas of ELA, social studies, cycle classes, art, and music. Character education lessons infused into the health curriculum. Student clubs, such as our Acceptance Alliance, which brings together students who are interested in making CMS a more accepting place in terms of diversity. Week of Respect activities that are focused on the themes of community and respect for others. Mindfulness/wellness events, which included Spirit Weeks, coordinated by Mrs. Dangler, Mrs. Neidiger, and the CMS Student Council. Contests, such as our October Challenge calendar, that challenge students to engage in acts of kindness. our Valentine's Day candy guessing contest, and our scavenger hunt for St. Patrick's Day, and a virtual trivia event that involved 70-plus students and was sponsored by the CMS PTO. A school safety/pandemic response team whose focus this year was to gather feedback on how students and staff members were adjusting to the return to school during the pandemic and to develop possible solutions to mitigate concerns. A student school safety team, which involves administrators and counselors meeting with students on a regular basis to discuss school climate. Workshops and resources for staff members on mindfulness and social and emotional learning, courtesy of Mrs. Mandala, our student assistance counselor, and SEL strategies for hybrid learning that were sent out to staff members, courtesy of Ms. Goldberg, a 6th grade teacher at CMS. These strategies served as resources that the teachers could then pass on to their students. I'd like to thank you for your time and invite you to get in contact with me if you should have any questions. Yeah. Not at all.
I just want to open it up to board members first to see if they have any questions for Lori or Anthony. Go ahead, Michelle.
Lori, when you talked about attendance, and I can't remember if you said this or not, in terms of significant attendance issues, would you say they leaned more toward students who were fully virtual or those who had kind of committed to the hybrid model?
They definitely leaned more toward those who were fully virtual. Yes, the students who had committed to the hybrid model, by and large, were in attendance.
My second question for Anthony is not real. It's more like a comment. So, we're looking at a kind of a generation of kids that have gone through now over a year of some form of virtual instruction, of remote learning. So kids, you're rising 6th grade, coming out of 5th grade, are way more tech savvy in terms of their searching, their whatever they're doing, than probably any other group that you've had come into the middle school before. I think there are kids that are probably seeing things, doing things they probably shouldn't be, and maybe they're not, but I think we need to stay ahead of that as they re-enter school and come back into a more typical setting, and kind of set boundaries earlier than later. And the same could go for the high school too, because I think as we move to a more typical school setting, that piece has to be addressed because it's going to be hard for them to let go.
I agree. We've had students recently who on their own have come forward because they felt that some of their fellow peers' posts online, not school related, were inappropriate. So I think the students are aware of that, and they have that urge to report material that they feel is inappropriate, that could be offensive. And we definitely get on top of that, and we also rely on our securely filters. We monitor those, and if anything pops up that could be inappropriate, we definitely address that as well.
Any additional comments from the board? Brad, you're good? No? Over here. So I just had a couple of observations. So Lori, you mentioned that obviously a lot of the lower numbers are due to the global pandemic. I don't know, one observation, maybe it was the 34 kids that weren't in the school anymore. Maybe they were the troublemakers. Thank you, Matt, for laughing. You also mentioned that 100% at the CMS were males, and 80% were males, which 5 of us on the stage here have only boys, so that makes us feel good. I hope the last observation is that maybe it's simply that the front of the alphabet and the back of the alphabet don't get along, but the alphabet's halves get along very, very well. So maybe we could take that forward to next year. So, the stats are great. I don't mean to make light of it. Part of what you bring to us is normal development for the age. They're age appropriate, and in some instances, it helps them develop, and before they go off to college, they can kind of make some of the mistakes safely here. So, while it's a good thing the stats are down, it may also have some repercussions that there's some growing pains still in front of us. So hopefully we can bring some of the good numbers forward next year. but maybe not all of them. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you've had a very, very long day, so feel free to head home and, don't stick around on our account. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. LaSousa, back to you.
Thank you. Just to round out the rest of the HIB investigations in the district, we didn't have any at Southern or at Milton Avenue School. We did have 9 investigations at Lafayette, 2 of which were confirmed to be HIB. And we had 3 investigations at Washington Ave, and 2 of them were confirmed to be HIB. So that'll go into our report at the end of the year that we're required to file with the state. Moving away from that topic then, and thank you to Anthony and Lori. Obviously, things are moving quickly now when it comes to COVID and the pandemic. So big picture, I guess, or maybe localized picture in the district, all of the cohorts in all the schools have been collapsed at this point. Today was actually the first day where we had every student in the district in attendance. We have over 90% attendance at all of our schools right now. The feedback from the schools has been terrific, and I'm referring particularly to the middle school and the high school, which is where students had been split into cohorts from the beginning of the year. But as we've brought students back the last couple of weeks, the teachers have been very excited. The teachers are much prefer overall to have the students all in class than they do to have them split between home and the classroom. So all of that has gone very well. We've been fortunate as well that we have not experienced any new COVID cases since we started the process of bringing groups back into school. So this is the longest stretch we've gone now. May 5th was the last reported case in the district, and that's by far like 5 times over the longest period of time we've gone this school year without a case reported to us, which is good. Parents continue to report that their children have been vaccinated, so every day we get reports of more students who have been vaccinated. And of course, just last Thursday, I think, was the day that children between the ages of 12 and 15 can begin to get vaccinated. So we'll continue to sort of request on a volunteer basis that parents let us know, because it helps us, determine quarantine-related issues and some other things. Everyone is aware of the CDC announcement last week about masks. Governor Murphy had more announcements this afternoon. We need to gain clarity on some of those announcements, hopefully tomorrow, because at least at the present time, it does not appear that any of the rules for schools, school-specific rules, have changed. And I know the CDC put out a statement on Saturday that said it recommended that schools hold all of their mitigation strategies in place through the end of this year, because most students are not vaccinated yet. But there are some questions that we just have about Governor Murphy's announcement today with regard to masks and some other things that we'd like to get clarity on, so that we are in a better position to plan our year-end events and all of that. And then in terms of next year, the one thing that he did answer definitively today was that there will be no virtual instruction like there is this year. Parents will not have that option, and all students will have to attend school in person unless they have some type of significant medical issue that would qualify them for home instruction, which is something that would have been available to them in any year prior to this one. So that's kind of where we are right about now. We're in a much better place than we've been in at any other point in the past 14 months or so.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. LaSousa?
Let's just say hypothetically for the 2021-22 school year, that if a percentage of your school is vaccinated, that you can lift the mask mandate. Since we're a pre-K through 12 district, would there have to be a policy for the whole district, or could there be a building-based policy? So I'm using the high school as an example.
I would think we could do a building-based type of program, depending on what the guidance is.
Or a classroom, right? Like if an entire classroom is vaccinated, potentially they could be mask-free or...
Yeah, I mean, my hope would be that there would be no masks next year. If the COVID rates keep plummeting the way they're plummeting, and if a large percentage of our staff and students are vaccinated, at least 6 through 12, that hopefully some of these mitigation strategies wouldn't be necessary. And then I don't know what the what the answer or the situation will be for younger students. Obviously, they've been less likely to spread COVID. That's what we've seen this year. We've had our classrooms filled with students the whole year, and we don't know yet. We haven't confirmed any in-school transmission, though perhaps we may have a small number, but we haven't had any significant outbreaks, at least at the K-5 level. So, and that, of course, that could be because everyone was in a mask or because the windows were open. I'm not sure, but hopefully next year we'll be even in a different place at the K-5 setting.
Brad, we're not picking that up, sorry.
He did lift the travel quarantine effective immediately, I saw about 3 hours ago. Does that apply to us, or do we have to wait for the DOH to chime in on that?
I think it applies to us, but we will reach out to the DOH just to be sure. But yes, so that would mean, of course, that students who are returning don't need to get a negative test. They don't need to go through the process if they want to return early. They can just, boom, come back into school.
Two things, Mike. Number one is the state going to be more efficient this time in terms of developing guidance for next year? Or are we going to be sitting right here in July, early August, having no idea what they're going to recommend?
We've been asking for guidance for next year for a while now, just like we were last year at this time. Of course, their response in part is that things are changing so quickly they don't want to put out guidance and then it's stale, a week later or 2 weeks later. So I've heard that they're going to release guidance by the end of May. And then I've heard, I think Governor Murphy, someone told me yesterday or today, made a statement about making sure it would be in our hands before the summer. So hopefully that'll come pretty quickly.
And my next observation from this whole thing is that this was a bizarre disease, right? And it impacted certain, whatever the right word is, parts of the demographics, age-wise. We had an at-risk community that tended to be roughly 55 and above, right? They came and they asked our kids to sacrifice for those who were at risk. So they had our kids who, it's been proven that for some reason, I don't know the answer, this disease was really not a huge risk to the under 25 age demographic. But they made these kids fall under the exact same rules and regulations that they did of the at-risk. So would you expect that going forward, because of the nature of this disease, now that we have the vaccines and the at-risk population, their risk profile has declined dramatically, would we or should we be looking at this situation as though the expectations and the rules and regulations around masks or COVID would be different for that under 25 group versus above 55? Do you see, is there a bifurcation coming in terms of what you believe the expectations could be? Because this is what it comes down to. This disease isn't going away. So we have to have. Are we going to be able to have two sets of rules whereby it's going to be okay if a 16-year-old person in school gets it? We're not going to be shutting down the school over this. We're not going to be shutting down classrooms over this. It might be different, for an older generation person. But so do you expect these rules to start delineating themselves from the risk versus at-risk community?
That's above my pay grade, but there's certainly language in all of the CDC guidance and the American Academy of Pediatric guidance that recognizes that the risks to students, the risks associated with COVID to younger people, you have to balance that with the risks associated with having them not be in school. And I think generally speaking, a lot of the pediatricians believe that the risks associated with not being in school on a daily basis are more significant or more worrisome than being in school and potentially contracting COVID. And the difference between next September and last September, of course, is that the adults who are potentially more susceptible to COVID will all have had the opportunity to be vaccinated by the time next school year begins. So it seems to make sense to me that there would be a greater willingness to ensure that students are in school every day, all day long. If the adults around them are protected through the vaccines and the students themselves don't have the option, or their parents don't have the option of dialing it in remotely every day, seems to me to would be reasonable to think that there's going to be a greater appetite for getting kids in school every day, all day long, and that they'll make rules that make that easy for us to do.
Any other questions for Mike on any of that? No other questions? Dr. LaSousa, anything else that you need to share with us?
I think that's it for now.
And the no virtual, does that include that we can't use virtual days then for snow days either, or unknown?
I think that's unknown at this
Okay.
point.
Okay,
Once the public health emergency expires, our understanding is that we can't use virtual days for snow days. But he did make reference today or over the weekend to whether, if there's a local flare-up of COVID and schools need to shut down as a recommendation from the local Department of Health, that then we'd be able to implement remote learning.
Okay, understood. Okay, great, thank you. No other questions for Dr. LaSousa. We're going to throw it over to Tatiana Gilbert, who's sitting in for Peter DeQuilla.
We're just planning the summer 21 construction projects, but there's not really much to report at this time.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
No, sure.
Really loud.
We're just planning for the summer 2021 construction projects, but there's not much to report at this time.
Thank you. This is why I asked for an extra speaker up here. Thank you. You're on my bad side, sorry. Matt says you're all good. Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Tatiana? Even though there's nothing to report? Excellent. Okay, moving over to committee reports. We're going to start with Ms. Ciccarelli on personnel.
Yes, we met on May 5th and just briefly discussed any leaves, any staffing changes, and other matters, and we're meeting again on June 7th.
Fantastic, excellent. Ms. Kenny, over to you for curriculum.
Yes, we also met. We had a preview of a presentation on the literacy program in the district. It was done by Heather Rocco and Dr. Kim Lanza, and the presentation will be made to the public, we hope, in the fall.
Excellent. Any questions on any of that? Okay, very good. Then finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan?
We have not met since the last meeting. We were supposed to meet on Wednesday, and that was been delayed.
I think that's been, postponed.
Right, yeah,
Same thing with policy, I believe.
correct.
Nope. Okay, very good. Okay, so nothing to
Sing it.
report. No audibles from the policy committee?
Baby, 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 oh.
Any liaison reports? Nope.
No.
It's been quiet. Excellent. Yes, the play starts tomorrow. Thursday, yep, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yes, starts Thursday, the spring musical, and it'll be right out here in the circle. They've been rehearsing. The weather looks spectacular. I also should mention that I've heard that the PTO fashion show went very, very well on Saturday night. Michelle's going to talk about that, but another good weather night, and things apparently went pretty well.
Just to say about the fashion show, I mean, I think I was talking to Lori before she left. The fashion show has probably given hundreds of $1,000s to the district in terms of raising funds and giving back. And this year was not about fundraising. It was really about providing an experience for these kids to be together. And it was the first time this class was able to be together, all in. And just to see them together, they were so happy, just to really be in each other's presence. And the first meeting at Cougar Field, like one of the kids was like, we have not been together as a class since March of last year. And then it just got better from there. And all the clothes were donated by people in the community. Usually they get them from vendors. People were just dropping off, like prom dresses upon prom dresses. But Jill Gallagher and Nicole O'Connell put their heart and soul in so these kids could have this experience. And I think it's a real amazing kickoff to the end of their year. And the link will be available for people to see it. I really think people should watch it because it's amazing. It's just another thing, the pandemic, that came out of a pandemic. They were like, who would have thought this could have happened? And it did. So it was amazing. And I hope these kids get more time together before they leave us.
It is great to see them together. I mean, it's palatable.
They were so
it's toxic and it's amazing. It's not toxic. It's you just feel it. You feel the energy. Anytime you could be when the kids are together, it's like a little fountain of youth. Any other items to report? Excellent. So Matt, I'll see you at the play 4 nights in a row. I'll go Thursday.
I don't know. I have to find that out. Or John Latona might know.
John's, yeah, not.
If there will be a link on our website, or if we're filming or streaming the spring musical. Copyright, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. All right, so we're going to move on. So I'd like to make a motion. Tatiana, I'm going to do these separately because there's different folks that attended both. So first we're going to do April 26th, the public and executive session. Can you remind me who was out that evening? Mr. Gilfil and Mr. Ryan. Okay.
No, Arnott.
Oh, Arnott, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was out May 5th.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. Excellent. Okay. So for April 26th, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Matt abstains. That's correct. Okay. Okay, very good. So then May 5th, the public session and the executive session.
So I have Mr. Gilfillan out and Mr. Ryan.
Okay.
May 5th.
Okay, great.
I believe I was out May 5th.
May 5th?
Yeah. Yes.
No, May 5th was executive committee, was virtual. Sal was there.
I was not here.
Oh, okay.
So April 26th, Sal, you weren't here, but May 5th you were. It was a virtual meeting with our attorney, and you were present for that, I think.
Okay. Tatiana,
That's why we
you're
can't
right.
have
I
virtual
was there
meetings, because
May
we
5th.
can't keep track.
April 26th, I have to abstain.
Okay, so you're abstaining.
You're done. Very good. Okay. So Tatiana, we're going to do May 5th, which was a virtual executive session.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
You were not there. We don't know. You said you were coming. You didn't show up.
Okay. I know that was exhausting. So we're at our public commentary portion of the meeting. Sorry for the delay on that. Hearing the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for all members of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And as you leave the podium, please say happy birthday to our videographer, Ryan, because today is his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Ryan.
Yeah, spending it with us. Go ahead, Jane.
Jane Devlin and Jane. Can you hear me? Yes. First, I want to echo what Michelle Clark said. The fashion show was awesome and a lot of positivity around it. So tonight, I want to say that my niece is graduating CHS this June 2021. She's the last of my two nieces and nephew. I've been actively involved with the school district of the Chatham since 2004. I volunteered a lot, attended meeting upon meetings of PTOs and Board of Ed, went to countless programs, school events, performances, etc., for 17 years. I've been lucky. So I come tonight, perhaps not to fully say goodbye, because I'm sure there may be some future matters I will want to weigh in on at board meetings. Often, I'm sure, in resounding support of the school district, its administrators, teachers, staff, and board. And on some occasion, may return to speak out in other positions. Think homework, think snow days, which, by the way, can't be beat and go hand in hand with childhood memories. A snow day can facilitate respite, creativity, spontaneity, family bonding, surprise, and wonder. But I digress. So although I may not be saying a full goodbye tonight, I wanted to come to speak loud and clear my appreciation to the school district of the Chathams. My niece, Chatham High School class of 2017, is now graduating NYU this week with honors from Tisch Canbar School of Film. She has a dual major in political science. My nephew, Chatham High School class of 2018, is majoring in robotics engineering at Worcester Polytech Institute with a dual major in education. He just passed the Massachusetts Teacher Certification Exam for teaching middle school and high school STEM. And my youngest niece is off to the first college of her choosing, Skidmore, to study art with a concentration in 3D and who knows what more. All three of these kids got into every single college they applied to. Some were offered merit scholarships. I would say this is remarkable, except the list is endless of how many other Chatham youth I have been blessed to know as Aunt Jane, who had similar scholarly achievements, awards, and merits. I know this, to a great degree, was due to the excellent foundation provided to them consistently from K all the way through grade 12. Year after year just got better and better. And since I was quite involved in school events, I witnessed firsthand my nieces and nephews flourish and thrive academically. And because they were also taught values, ethics, kindness, and integrity as part of the school district curriculum, they bloomed to become socially conscious, decent, good young adults. They are appreciative of arts and humanities due to what they were introduced to at the school district of the Chathams curriculum. I am so grateful to so many teachers. I do not name them all. The list is long, and I would not want to overlook anyone. But be assured they are etched in my mind and in my heart, and each one gave to my nieces and nephew in a different way to leave a lasting impact on their lives. And this is not hyperbole. I also want to thank the school principals over the years and the superintendent, administrative staff, and department heads, not only for their tireless dedication to the district and educating so many students over the years, but especially for their hospitality to me and availing yourselves to my contacts. Of course, it's part of the job to welcome and meet with parents. The handbook doesn't say you have to do it with aunts, but you were welcoming, inclusive of me, and valued my input, and Aunt Jane is grateful. That same receptivity and welcome and true regard was felt by me at every Board of Ed meeting I attended with this dedicated board. And that was felt too at every PTO meeting I attended at Southern Boulevard School, CMS, and CHS. So let me close again by offering everyone my thanks, my esteem, and my most kind and best wishes. Thank you.
Jane, any additional comments for this evening? No. Okay, great. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the action items. Right before we do that, though, I just wanted to mention, since we mentioned the fashion show and the high school musical, I'd also like to point out that the Chatham Middle School last week, the chorus and the orchestra, they had their concerts that were a great success. And the week after the musical, it will be the high school band, the chorus, and the orchestra concerts will be on May 24th, 25th, and 26th. So keep an eye out for that, and please join if you're available. And congratulations to the middle school on the chorus and the orchestra and their band. So thank you very much. Great. So moving over quickly to the action items, personnel. Ann, do you mind? Oh,
Sorry, can I interrupt you, Jill, for one sec? I just want
do I have a choice?
Please.
Oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
just wanna
Tatiana. I'm
note
just
for the
teasing.
record that the minutes both passed 701.
Okay,
I
7.
didn't say it out loud, so I just wanted to.
Is that a rule you have to say it out loud?
I feel like it.
Okay, 701.
I just wanted to hear myself.
Just checking to see if it's an actual rule, or you're just making stuff up as you go.
I may.
Excellent. Okay, well then we're going to send thank you. I appreciate it. We've checked that box. Peter will be very proud. So Ann, if you could take us away with personnel, that would be great.
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 to A29 on the regular agenda, as well as A1, 16, and 30 on the addendum.
On A5 is the last
second
teacher.
it.
Oh, sorry. Is the last teacher a special education teacher, Gina Delastrito? It just says teacher. Does anyone else see that?
A5, Michelle?
Yeah, if you look at A5, it's the last name. It's a teacher at Milton Avenue.
Oh.
It just says teacher of.
Special education at Milton.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions on personnel matters? Nope. Very good. Tatiana, do you mind?
Yep, noted for the record that agenda items A1 through A29 and items A1, 16, and 30 on the addendum pass 8-0.
So just circling back to the personnel, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? There you go. Sorry. I need to do it out loud also. Okay, Mr. Gilfillan, over to you, please, for finance and facilities.
I'd like to move action items B1 to 17 on your regular agenda and B18 on your addendum.
Second.
My annual favorite time of year because of Miss Weber. And her annual Bank of America charitable donation in the amount of $250 to be used at the discretion of Mr. LaSousa. A Fidelity charitable donor for the Eleanor Shipler Award in the amount of $250. The donation is made possible through the David and Deborah Shipler, I assume, Foundation. An interesting one, acceptance donation for the books of the All Are Welcome Here. I've never heard, this is a new project to me. This is a donation of 93 books valued at over almost $1,100 to be used at all the different schools, Milton Avenue, Southern Boulevard, and there's 2 Milton Avenues there. In the middle school, the books are part of what they call the All Are Welcome Here initiative and are being donated in honor of Asian American Heritage Month by the Asian American Allies Group of Chatham and Summit. And finally, a cyber grant from Lord Abbott, donated on the behalf of Eric Kang in the amount of $250. Again, at the discretion of the Lafayette Avenue principal. Thank you, everybody, for all your donations. I like these unique donations that we get once in a while.
Really. Thank you, Matt. Any questions? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Noted for the record, the agenda items B1 through 17 and item B18 on the addendum pass 8-0.
Great, thank you. Ms. Kenny, over to you for curriculum.
Yes, I'd like to move action items C1 to C2 for vote.
I'll second it.
And these are both HIB, so there's not a ton to discuss. So are you going to expect a plaque? So since you were the chair of curriculum and there have been 0 confirmed HIBs this year? No, but they were not confirmed. Yeah, but we don't count. Elementary school, we don't count those. That's just developmental. I think a lot of you can take a bow for that one. Excellent. Policy, I'm just going to look to the policy folks. Is there any audibles there? No. Okay. But Wednesday's been canceled until further notice, correct?
Yes, I don't think we need to meet for finance or policy this Wednesday. We just don't have anything new and urgent to discuss.
So policy and finance are canceled for Wednesday. I didn't mean to think all of Wednesday, so folks have to show up for work on Wednesday. Okay, so this is our board business. Does anybody have any items they want to bring up for board business? Oh, Matt, picking up your mic? Oh. Any new items? We kind of covered a lot of ground last time. Okay, we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If anybody is anxious, please form an orderly line. Thank you, Tatiana. Excellent. Mike, we do not have an executive session, correct? So if there's no other business, I make a motion to close. Done.